it's inevitable. We're not going to be able to avoid the AI that's coming through. And it'll be interesting to see how the technology evolves, how the workforce adapts to it, and how we as business owners want to take kind of this almost a moral high ground. How do we lead by example? And instead of replacing our workforce, can we assign them to higher value tasks?
Absolutely. I think the AI will challenge all industries to skill up in what they're doing, because if you're not skilling up, you're going to be left behind. And this happened, and it didn't matter whether it was AI. I mean, I watched this documentary on New York and the history of New York. Welcome back to the Money, the Mindset, and the Mentoring podcast. Yo, DJ,
Yo,
thrill that beat.
was good. It was a good day.
It was a good day because I didn't have to use my thing. I didn't even say that thing. Yeah, I'm going to be canceled.
Real careful.
Well, Chris, welcome to the podcast, my man. It's just been giggles the whole time as we've been setting this up. I'm like, you know what? Let's just throw the record on. Let's just go and just hit it, man.
Absolutely, man. We're just here laughing, having fun with some tools and AI and stuff, and just the things we can come up with. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, we had to get serious and like, okay, we should actually hit the record button and start having a conversation here. Yeah, so I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So business, numbers.
Yeah. Let's do it. Yeah.
So, I mean, you started off we'll talk about the DJ stuff, because it was the great thing is we were starting, you're like, dude, like, what's your favorite song? And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't even know. And then I finally figured it out. I'm like, it's the mashup. It doesn't really matter what it is. Just mash things up and make some fun. And I think I blame that on my wife, because when she used to make mixtapes, and hopefully she doesn't hear this, but when she used to make mixtapes, her mixtapes were so bad because she'd have like country music, and then she'd play like some completely non-beat adjacent song in like hip hop, and then another non-beat adjacent song with like Michael Bublé. And I think that just sort of sat in my brain for so long that I just started to love mashup songs. And then she listens to this, I think it's called like, what is it called? Like Big Bounce Music or whatever. And it's some mashup thing on Spotify where it puts all these songs together. Big Booty Mashup, I think is what it's called. It has nothing to do with booties or being big. But it's just got this amazing mashup, and it's just so much fun. So mashup's my jam. But so you came out of the DJ space, and let's just kind of hit that as a talking point, because I probably lost half the audience by now.
No, they're still listening. I think they're hanging around.
Yeah, like, where's he going?
I started 10 years ago. It was 2014. I was working full time at a home care hospice company in the volunteer department, and just looking for some side income. My bosses recommended, hey, you have some old equipment from the band days. Can you bring that to my friend's wedding and just play DJ? We're going to give you a laptop with iTunes on it. I'm like, sure, I'll give it a shot. So I did it. It was a lot of fun. I earned some money and realized, wow, there's a business opportunity here. When I first started, it was really just any event I could get my hands on, birthdays, anniversaries, funerals, whatever you wanted. You're going to pay me money. I'm going to show up,
Nothing better than having the DJ show up to your funeral. Like, yo, DJ, drop the beat 6 feet under.
Air horn, burr, burr, burr. And so starting off, I was doing everything I could just to get some income, some side income. Built a website, did all those fun things that you have to do when you're an entrepreneur, wearing all the hats. And after a while, I started to realize weddings, those are the highest paid gigs. Those seem to be just the right fit. Relatively easy once you kind of understand the structure and everything that goes into it. So that's when we niched down into specializing just in weddings. It wasn't worth our time then to go out to these other events. Yeah, exactly.
So let's and I want to hit this because this I find interesting, because one thing that I'm a huge Grant Cardone fan, as most people know, and what he always talks about is rather than if you build it, they will come. If they come, you will build it, is a way better mentality. And you started finding that you were really gravitating to that space of the weddings. But now I want to be honest, were you selling your soul a little bit on doing the weddings? Because I mean, we see like things like The Wedding Singer with Adam Sandler, where people are like, being a wedding DJ is where souls go to die. how did you not end up being that person at the funeral where somebody's like, man, we got to get a DJ for this guy's funeral?
That is a great point. For me, I think a lot of people who are passionate about a certain subject or thing that they do, they really like that thing, and it would hurt them to lose that creative outlet. So for DJs, it might be, we really love doing clubs, or I really love doing mashups, or I do streaming, and that's all I want to do. They can't have that creative outlet at a wedding. It's completely different. They would not appreciate a mashup, where Garth Brooks goes into Ice Cube. Maybe, I don't know, but it's not something you want to walk down the aisle to, which is fine. But it's something that you mentioned, I think, is really important, is just if there's demand for it, then build that thing. So you want to demonstrate proof of concept first, see if there's a demand, and then build the system based on exactly what they're looking for. So that way you're not spending this time trying to guess what it is that the market might want, or is there a demand for this, or how would I build this? You don't know the demand yet. You can't get feedback from the users. So what you described is a perfect scenario where you kind of want to gauge interest, figure it out, what it is that they're looking for, what problems are you trying to solve, and then you can build that, because you've already demonstrated the proof of concept. You have the market ready to go, and suddenly when you're ready to launch, now you have a list of 1 to 500 people that are already pre-warmed to your system and idea, and that's a much better launching point.
Oh, absolutely. It's better to launch when people are hanging around than going, I'm launching, and you're like, okay, crickets are my guests today.
That's not a good feeling when you're trying to, drum up hype, and here I am as a professional hype man.
Unless you're pest control, and you're like, man, they're all here. Sweet.
Endless money here. It absolutely is. Money.
There was one guy I talked to, who went to one city once where it actually rained crickets or something from the sky.
Wow.
And it was like if you ever had a pest control business, it was like that was the mecca. And he showed up for this conference, and they're all in this hotel room. They're everywhere. And then, it was just, it's the idea that when you start a business, you want to be the hot dog stand when there's nobody for miles, or you want to be and everybody's hungry because they just came out of the big game, or they're just going to the big game. And rather than, I'm selling hot dogs in the middle of a free buffet, and here, guys, buy my stuff. And it just, you got to go where the need is, and then just amplify.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I completely agree.
Now, so you're in the DJ space, and where we connected was talking about, you've got the marketing business and that sort of thing. How did that kind of transpire? How did you go from, I'm now a DJ, I'm Adam Sandler, you got the girl in the end or whatever, and your credits are rolling, and you're saying, I'm not going to make a sequel, I'm going to go start a marketing company.
Absolutely. Yeah. Seems like quite a transition. I actually realized while I was trying to build the DJ business, you need to be really good at sales and marketing in order to be profitable. So I learned everything I could from YouTube University, reading books and podcasts and implementing it. I realized that I actually enjoy marketing a lot, and I really wanted to focus my attention on how do I get even better at marketing. So there's this crazy opportunity with a scholarship program with our local community college. I was able to go back and get my degree in marketing for the low price of $0. But I just had to finish it and get a certain grade point average and not leave in order to make sure I didn't have to pay $20,000, $25,000 at the end. So luckily we passed, we got through it. No bills have been sent from them. So that's been great. But that was the whole purpose behind going back to school. I had the opportunity. It was there. I wanted to go through that door since it presented itself, and an opportunity to earn a degree in a subject I was passionate about. And then I realized, wow, I've been helping my friends and family with their websites, their social media, their marketing strategy all this time. And now that I have this degree, my skills are refined. Let's turn that into a business as well. Because I do love the flexibility that a digital marketing agency provides. You can do this work from almost anywhere, as opposed to DJing, where you're stuck to this locality. And I just thinking long term, I'm 34 now, 40s and 50s, I'm not going to be wanting to carrying equipment all around. And, frankly, I won't be as hip and cool in a few years. So I got to recognize that, look at the long-term strategy. And that's why I went into the marketing agency space.
See, I love the fact that you have such positivity around the fact that you're looking in the future, saying that you're not going to be hip and cool, which means that today you still believe that you are connected to both hip and cool. And I'm not talking about a broken hip either. So that is fantastic to hear that positivity just ringing through, which is amazing. Good self-worth value right there. It's amazing. I love it.
Hey, I appreciate that. I think positivity goes a really long way. Now, don't get me wrong. I have a lot of crap that comes my way, a lot of obstacles, a lot of fires that need to be put out, things that I never thought I would have to deal with, and suddenly we're having to deal with. But all those obstacles, those are learning opportunities. What you need to do is overcome those obstacles in order to get through it. And then the positive stuff comes. And so don't get me wrong, it's stressful. There's a lot of work. You know it. You're in business. This is the life of entrepreneurship. Welcome to it. It's the land of 1,000 problems that only you can solve. But luckily, you get to a point where you build that team, and you only have to take care of that 10%, as you mentioned. You had some fires this week, and here you are still being positive too, right?
Well, it's funny because I look at problems as that's where I found my worth, right? I mean, if there was no problems, what am I doing all day long? Grant talks a lot about this, which I think is great, where he talks about the idea is you have a problem. The easiest way to solve your problem is just find a bigger one and solve that problem that just by happenstance solves the little problem that you have today. If you got $1,000 problem, solve $1 million problem, and guess how fast that $1,000 problem goes away? Instantaneously. And one of the things when scaling a business I think is really important is scale your problem solving within the business. I think most people, when they're building a business, they look to hire people that can work for them. Whereas if you hire people who are going to solve bigger things than what you could possibly expect, that means that when those big things come in, they can ingest and solve those problems for you rather than everything rolling back up to you and you solving it. If you're solving 90% of your business's problems, that just means maybe you haven't done the right hires. And that, because those people should be able to carry, 90% of the problems.
Absolutely. The team that you put together to help solve those problems is going to be very important because looking at it, typically, there's a lot of workers who just need direction. You give them the tasks, they're going to complete those to the best of their ability. And that's kind of the typical workforce. It's a really great feeling we can get someone who is an expert in a field or can give you direction and advice based on certain scenarios. And you say, wow, I'm so glad I hired someone like you to solve this specific problem because that's something I didn't know personally. And that's why I'm paying you the big bucks. But it's the team that you put together. I think what you described is absolutely so important.
Yeah, 100%. And it's interesting because I think a lot of the idea of proper delegation is being challenged in the workforce today because of the ingestion of AI into this space. Because the people who are really succeeding at using AI today are typically the people who are really good at delegating. The people who want to own the task rather than own the result and the task. The people who prefer to own the task are seeing AI as a huge threat. Whereas the people who want to put that task aside and say, I own the result and let somebody else take that task are really succeeding using AI today.
Absolutely. That is a great way to put it. It's those who are only producing that end result. They're scared of what AI is going to be replacing for them. Don't get me wrong. Like AI is going to be, changing the landscape of the workforce. It already has. But again, for those who like to use AI and delegate, it's such an incredible tool. It's just like another piece of software where we can now get a better end result, more results in a smaller amount of time by just typing in a prompt or creating a system that just generates this content. AI is being integrated into literally every device that we use. It's mobile phones. It's used within Grammarly, Descript. I mean, any software that can toss in a little asterisk that says powered with AI. Hey man, that's $1 million idea. Let's do it. So Gmail is suggesting, phrases and words and let me autocomplete this email for you. It's inevitable. We're not going to be able to avoid the AI that's coming through. And it'll be interesting to see how the technology evolves, how the workforce adapts to it, and how we as business owners want to take kind of this almost a moral high ground. How do we lead by example? And instead of replacing our workforce, can we assign them to higher value tasks?
Absolutely. I think the AI will challenge all industries to skill up in what they're doing because if you're not skilling up, you're going to be left behind. And this happened, and it didn't matter whether it was AI. I mean, I watched this documentary on New York and the history of New York. It was this beautiful documentary. It was, I think, 14 episodes long on YouTube, hour-long episodes each. And it talked about when New York went from 170,000 people to the millions of people that it is today, and what metamorphosis did that city go through. And it talked about all the different immigrants that would come through the city. And the one immigrant that was sort of the immigrant of the day would be replaced by the immigrant of tomorrow coming in to take their job. And the people coming in, would work for lower pay or whatever it was, which would drive rates down. And then the people who were there would either skill up and start managing the new immigrants, or they would have their job replaced. Well, that's exactly what's happening today with AI. Is as the AI comes in and starts gobbling up tasks that people would, see value in, rather than, again, as we talked about the results, looking at the fact that it's coming in, if it can do the same work or better than us, and ideally, hopefully better, because that's, to me, the only reason why to replace something. But if it can do the same work or better, then manage them. So in other words, treat AI like an employee. Don't treat it like a technology, and you'll do so much better.
Absolutely. Yeah, people need to, change their perspective on how AI is going to be integrated into the workforce here. And for those who are just, kind of the ones who do the tasks, the worker bees, the ones who just take the direction, they need to step up and become those managers, as you mentioned. Learn what it takes to kind of create these prompts. What can AI do? Because you want to be ahead of the game on this. You don't want to realize, okay, it's Friday afternoon and suddenly I'm getting the pink slip. And all my other friends and family are losing their jobs too in many different industries because AI made things more efficient. And this is true for any tool or anything that comes to the forefront. Ford creating the automation line. You have the internet. I mean, people were complaining, oh, it's going to take away the mail carriers and this and that. And wow, I mean, the internet is kind of this cool efficiency tool, and it connects us more. But look at how many more jobs the internet created. For as many as it replaced, it created even more. You have, system engineers, software, network engineers. I mean, an entire gamut of IT that goes into the internet. I think the same will be for AI. There's going to be prompt generators. There's going to be system engineers, people who are trying to take the open source code of AI and, okay, why don't we use an image generator that creates this, that sends it over to that? People are creating AI powered tools all the time right now. And it's amazing. I can't believe how many new tools have come out in the last 2 years.
I think as long as the LLM doesn't get politically skewed or otherwise, and there's certainly a risk around that, and we've seen that on some tools that came out where they have an agenda. And I think that I think we're going to see other large language models come out where they're going to say maybe you need an alternative. And if you identify with this agenda, take this LLM. If you identify with this agenda, take this LLM. And we're going to see some of that. But, there's so much that's being done with the existing ones. I talked to this one fellow. What they did is they were able to use AI to democratize the process of peer reviews, in the sense that a lot of times what they felt is peer reviews were being done based on who knows who, rather than on who knows what. And so because, AI doesn't care who you are, it cares what you say. And it looks at that data and then it'll pull that forward to the front. So they actually use it to rapidly identify things that were in peer review that were stalling, that were actually go to market products to bring out of that whole environment and move the needle faster. And they did it for VCs. So they followed the money, which I thought was a really, really crafty way of building out a business.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Whether you go the VC route, the crowdfunding, whether it's, you're going public so you can create, stock and, kind of create liquidity for your business. You're kind of beholden to whatever, higher power or money backer, financial backer, you kind of have, within your business. And same for, the creator behind any tool. There will be some inherent biases or the vision that they see for their particular tool. You will kind of see that come out in their work. Ideally, we would have a perfect world where instead of siloing, left, right, young versus old, rich versus poor, we could all have a tool that could be objective, that could speak truth, that could be factual, and that would be a perfect world. But of course, we do have to work with just the outside factors, other influences that are kind of, the creators behind the certain tools and software that we're using. It'll be a, kind of an interesting scenario going forward to see what's created with AI and what bias it may have or may not have.
Just like an employee. I mean, every employee you hire is going to have a bias. We like to pretend that that's not the case. There's a saying I love, it's all generalities are false. And that in itself, if it's true, means that generalities are false. So if it's false, then is it true? And so to me, I look at that with AI and with people. I mean, we can pretend all we want. There's biases, and there's biases that are programmatically given, and there's biases that are not. But they do all exist. And we've got to be cognizant of that when using AI.
Oh, absolutely. Something that reminded what you said. I wanted to say that us men, we can be a bit stubborn and hard-headed, right? But if you disagree with me, you're only proving my point. So it's kind of like that. It brings it back. You're like, oh crap, self-fulfilling prophecy here,
Caught me. You caught me.
But that will be the case with AI. Any tool, any product that's out there, there's going to be some bias. Even within design or creative work, there's going to be that artist perspective, and that's why we ask our clients, what are you looking for? Describe what you're we like to get that description so we can understand the projects and what they're hoping for an end result. Anything is going to have our own perspective to it. It's going to change our attitudes. It's going to change our beliefs. It's going to change how we interact with each other. It's human nature. And the more human AI is going to be, I guess, maybe that is the direction. It's just going to become bias.
Absolutely.
Maybe it's going to start eating potato chips and playing video games too. I don't know.
As long as it doesn't double dip. If AI starts double dipping, we got to get rid of AI. I think that's just where the line draws, because that's just gross.
I think left or right, everyone can agree double dipping is not American. It's not good for the world.
Double dipping, fundamentally un-American.
Un-American.
That's finally the way to bring both sides together that agree on one thing. Bring in a potato chip and see what they do.
I mean, think about it. Create the ad copy for that. What's the solution? What's the pain point? Are you tired of seeing broken chips and a sauce that doesn't belong in your dip? Well, here's the solution.
That's right.
This is exactly the conversation we were having 30 minutes ago, where it was just the banter, laughing back and forth, which was great. But I love the serious business talk too.
Well, you gotta have both. And I mean, the thing is, at the end of the day, that's one thing that I do love about podcasting. And I'm going to shamelessly market podcasting for a minute, because I think podcasting to me is one of the most amazing ways that you can reach out and have communications with people that you never thought you were going to have, and then share those communications with the people around you, because you get that audience of people who follow, and some of them will listen to everything that you got, and some of them listen to just little snippets. As long as you put it in the way that they consume, that's something that is big. But I think people always focus on the audience first and second, where I think the inverse needs to happen is you focus on the person that you actually get to meet on the podcast. And that's super exciting, because you can walk away yourself with the information of what somebody just shared with you. And you're like, man, I just grew a little bit in this podcast, and my knowledge and I think that's the real exciting part of podcasting.
I enjoy that too. It's the connections and relationships we're able to build with these other business owners, experts in their field, entrepreneurs. It opens up the conversation to have that dialogue. And again, we can be a little bit selfish on the questions that we ask. Maybe I'm, generally asking, how do you handle this process and method in your business? But secretly, I'm struggling with that. So I'm trying to solve some more problems. But I like to have that give-take relationship where I'm going to share some tips and tricks, give them some guidance, any insight I can provide. People have been so kind to mentor me, to share knowledge with me, that I want to give that back too. But again, the podcasting is a great way to kind of steer the conversation towards whatever it is that you want to ask.
Absolutely. And it's funny that you say what you just said. I just did an interview with a guy by the name of David Hill, and he, on his show, he's had Grant Cardone on his show. He's had Mel Robbins and a bunch of really great people. And he said it's his secret way to get the greats on his show so that he can get free one-on-one mentoring.
It's true. It's
And I'm like,
true.
that's amazing. It's a perfect way to do things. I love it. And so he's got a strategy, right? And his strategy makes sense for his podcast because that's the direction that he wants to go in elevating his podcast. I think it's beautiful. I think
Absolutely.
most people, when they start a podcast, they actually don't start with a strategy and then they're upset they never got to where they wanted to go. It's like, well, maybe why don't you start with a strategy first and then set your measurement tools in place so you're hitting the direction that you definitely want to go.
Absolutely. You need an end goal. And I think for a lot of podcasters too, they want an end goal of monetization. But I think the vehicle or the channel that they're trying to take the action from that is the wrong direction. They're hoping to get sponsorships, or they're hoping to grow the channel into monetization status, which I think is even better than trying to get sponsorships. But for me, I think it's a great tool to open up the conversation about, problems and solutions and what you as a business owner. That's where I want to capitalize podcasting from. It's not trying to get $5, $10, $50 sponsorships here and there. This is more about, can I offer a solution to business owners where it's an exchange of value. They pay me a large amount of money to solve problems that, are able to 2, 4, 6x whatever problem they were having, whether that's the lead gen or the conversion. That's the monetization that I like to focus on. And of course, to each their own, however they want to monetize it. But I feel like people are trying to make money from podcasting, and it's a quick race to the bottom where you're going to be losing money here if you continue to follow that path.
Well, you're going to lose inertia. I mean, if you haven't set a process by which you're going to measure your success and work towards that, and you're just going to flop around in the podcast space without any bit of direction, I think that, you're going to get to your episode 10 or your episode 50 or episode 100. I talked to one lady at Podfest, by the way, one of the best things to go to. Shameless plug for Chris on Podfest. It's amazing. But I spoke with this one lady. She was on episode 400. And she's like, I'm just trying to monetize. And it's like, well, maybe work on your strategy. I mean, I believe in massive action. Don't get me wrong. I do believe in massive action, but I also believe in, following that up with reviews, KPIs, and pivots to ensure that you're actually going to hit that final goal, because you're going to run out of energy eventually. And because it's not hitting the target. So I think the strategy element, I think, is extremely critical. And both of us having a podcast, it's one of those things you run into people who you're like, yep, this person needs a strategy.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's funny how, the people who are not likely to take action, they spend too much time analyzing and thinking about how they may want to try and accomplish this. Those people need to take more action. And the opposite is true for the others. Those who, take too much action without thinking first. Well, you need to pump the brakes a little bit and kind of rethink your strategy, because otherwise you're going to be spinning your wheels. And I would hope at some point within your business, don't get me wrong, there's going to be obstacles that you want to overcome and just continue towards your end goal, but also have a stop loss point where you realize, okay, at how many episodes do I reach? And if it's not profitable or I can't monetize, at what point do I pivot? When do I say, this isn't the right strategy for me? I need to switch things up.
Yeah, and that's a hard point to say. I mean, I ran a business for a long time that it would be successful, then it run into financial challenges. It would be successful, it was in construction space, run into financial challenges. And then I pivoted into becoming a real estate agent. And it was a hard pivot. Like it was a massive pivot. And people are like, oh, you gave up on that company. No, I didn't give up in being an entrepreneur. I just changed the channel in which I was being an entrepreneur. So it was a pivot. It wasn't a quitting. And I think people really understand the difference between pivoting and quitting, because you can be stuck on stupid for a really long time and banging your head against the wall saying, this hurts, but you're just going to keep on doing it. Sometimes just pull the nail out, stop banging your head against the wall and pivot in the right way. And usually it takes an outside force to get you there.
Absolutely. Yeah. An outside perspective is always welcome. Kind of get that feedback. Someone mentioned to me, it's the difference between your passion and your purpose. So it's one is going to be, kind of the end result. Or for me, it's like, I love helping people have a good time, feel good about themselves. And the vehicle in which I accomplish that, one is going to be the wedding DJ. Obviously that, provides its own value, but also in the marketing side, so it's like you can have the one purpose and your passions can change, or you can do a little bit of both. But again, both are actually me helping people. And that's what I enjoy the most. Sometimes that takes a pivot. And again, you didn't give up. This is strictly a pivot. People will go in and out of entrepreneurship. They need to go back to full-time work to support their family, save up some income so they can try their next big idea. This is, the beauty and life of entrepreneurship. It is just ever changing, ever evolving. We don't know when the next success or loss is going to come in, but we just have to deal with it and try to keep a positive attitude as we get through those problems, because the negativity will eat you alive.
Absolutely. I think
Keeping that mindset
entrepreneurship
right.
is not a business endeavor. It's a mindset. And I think that's something for people to really dive in on is think your entrepreneurial mindset, whether you're working in somebody else's business as an entrepreneur or whether you're working in your own business as an entrepreneur, the mindset is exactly the same.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We need
Beautiful.
to spread some more positivity around.
Absolutely. Well, the best way to do that is with making a mashup of some really sweet music and sweet advice as we chat about business and that sort of thing. So we started off talking about what my favorite song was, and that's really what is your favorite song?
Favorite song. So like I grew up on like the 2000s punk rock. So it was the Blink-182, the All Time Low, the skater rock. So that was me. I
Nice.
was a skateboarder back then. I could do a couple tricks, so I wasn't a full-on poser, but I was trying to live the whole skater band life sort of thing. But that was a different time and era. So that was the music I grew up on. So that has been kind of influential in some of the tools that I'm using. I was speaking to you earlier about what your favorite music was. So I was like, Steve, I'm going to write you a little corporate jingle in the style of music that you like. You tell me how much you like Ice Cube, a specific song. So I asked Google, what style is this? And it described it as the West Coast hip hop gangsta rap. And I'm like, okay, perfect. Let me use this in the prompt generator. We're going to create this song for you. So we have the song that's generated. The first song sounds exactly like Ludacris, and it's not to knock Ludacris himself, but you have a specific style and genre, and you see it, and you're like, wow, that sounds just like that person. The tools that we're using, both fun and productive for us, and it was just a cool. I'm using it as a cool icebreaker for a lot of the contacts that I'm working. So it's either within the opening message as an icebreaker, or if the conversation goes stale, I can ask them what their favorite music is. I'm going to make you a little song. And it really surprises them. That always gets a response. It's a wow react or a love react. And then they're like, what is this? And then they get the song and then they can't help but laugh or really enjoy and appreciate it. It's a great tool. I love it.
That's amazing. Well, I'm sure people will look you up to find out that tool because you've probably got a lot of people's thoughts on that of like, ooh, what can I make? And how can I harass somebody with it? Because that's just so much fun. And nothing better than poking at somebody to make your day. And so that's amazing. That's amazing. And so for people to find you, because, one of the things I think, when you meet great people, you want them to get found. And I know you've got your podcast. Let's talk about your podcast, the Brainwork Framework podcast, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So guys, check out the Brainwork Framework podcast. It's just amazing. Dude does some awesome stuff and has some great guests as well. And so that's awesome. And then you've got your focus-biz.com is your website. And I think that's a great spot for people to get to know you a little bit more about the stuff that you do. And did I miss anything on how to reach you?
That's perfect. I'd love just to add, they can find me on Facebook or LinkedIn, Chris Troka, Troka, or I just started christroka.com as well. So people can search the name. You'll find me somewhere, other podcasts, this one, another place. I'm trying to get out there, as we all are.
Just look up Adam Sandler Alternative, and you'll find him. Just search Adam Sandler Alternative, and it'll come up with Chris Troka, and I think that will be the easiest way to locate him.
I'm going to start putting that into my SEO strategy.
That's right. Adam Sandler. It's amazing. Well, Chris, dude, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. And thank you so much for spending time with us today on the Money, the Mindset, the Mentoring podcast. And guys, we'll see you on the next one.